hypothyroidism, increase their energy levels, and lose weight. You will also find a plant that has a high concentration of chromium. Several studies have now demonstrated that chromium controls the metabolic action of insulin. One of them showed that a 10-month treatment with chromium in 833 patients with type 2 diabetes significantly reduced their fasting glucose levels beginning with the first month. Chromium is extremely rare nowadays because of the food processing methods that remove most of the naturally occurring chromium from foods. Maybe this is one of the reasons why type 2 diabetes is so common today, but 100 years ago, it was a rarely occurring disease. While our grandparents consumed almost every part of this plant, today it has become invisible to most Americans. On page 61, you'll discover the plant commonly used as chicken feed that shrinks and heals varicose veins over time. Allergies are not to be taken lightly. It's a warning sign that your immune system is not acting the way it should. On page 169, you'll find a plant called butterbur. This plant is so special because it contains antihistamines. So you would reasonably assume that it has the same effect as antihistamines found in allergy medication, right? Wrong. When butterbur was compared in a randomized controlled trial with cetirizine, the active ingredient in Zyrtec, although the results were the same, butterbur didn't produce the sedative side effects associated with cetirizine. Same results, no money, fewer side effects. Basically, you're paying for the side effects. If you ever have to go out foraging, will you know which one of these plants is edible, which one is a remedy for high blood pressure and tension, and which one is poisonous? The Native Americans knew all too well, and probably our grandparents did too. But very few people nowadays could give the correct answer. As a survivalist, I can tell you that this kind of skill will set you apart from your group during dark times, and will probably turn you into their guide, or even their savior. I'm sure that you've seen this plant too. It grows in most forest glades. You'll discover how to use it effectively to treat not only common colds, but lung infections as well. Also, breathing in the steam from leaves that have been boiled in water will immediately calm any asthma attack. This is probably why 100 years ago, people with asthma didn't die from it. On page 200, you'll also discover a plant called Pipsissewa, which in Cree means to break up into small pieces. That's because of its ability to break up and dissolve painful kidney stones. This plant also contains a substance called hydroquinone, which disinfects the urinary system and heals inflammation of the bladder. If you've ever walked through the edges of a woodland and gotten some sticky burrs attached to your clothing, you can bet you've just passed by this plant. The best way to deal with this annoying weed? Eat it. Native Americans use it as a sweetener 200 years ago, and it tastes better than most greens I know. What people don't know is that this plant is also a strong diuretic you can take for poor blood circulation. If you've ever felt a tingling and numbness sensation in a limb in certain positions, you probably have bad circulation, and you should consider this blood vessel cleanser. People who use it can go from dizzy and tired most of the time to having an excess of energy in a few weeks. Another plant you'll find inside is called woolly lamb's ear. Also known as backyard bandage, this weed has been used for centuries on battlefields to stop bleeding. It's been recently discovered that it's high in vitamin K, the vitamin that coagulates the blood. It's the same powdered vitamin that we gave our soldiers in World War II to pour over the wound in case they were shot. I hope you never find yourself looking down at a wound that just won't stop bleeding. But if you do, or if a loved one has diabetes or problems with coagulation or wound healing, make sure you always have this plant on hand. A plant you want to keep close for a strong heart is called kudzu. This invasive weed has one very powerful property. It expands the arteries and vessels, lowering the blood pressure and unlocking blood flow. And in doing so, besides reducing the chances of clotting and strokes in people with myocardial ischemia, it helps treat a lot of medical problems like swollen feet or cold hands. No matter where you live in America, there's a source of water nearby. And when there's water, there are cattails. If you find cattails, you'll have everything you need for survival. Water, food, shelter, and fuel. You probably already know cattails are edible, but few people know what is probably the most important thing about them, the jelly-like substance that grows between its leaves. It is very good for severe skin infections and one of the best cures for nail and foot fungus. On a different note, this gel is the only part of the cattail that is widely considered to be inedible. It's not poisonous, so why? Well, because it has a powerful numbing effect on moist tissues and has been used as a Novocaine substitute in the past. Yes, it's an anesthetic that you can use in many, many situations. When the pioneers were hit with a ravaging toothache, they would just go and get their jar of cattail ooze and rub it around their gums. The pain would subside in minutes. Another thing you'll discover in the Lost Book of Herbal Remedies is the ultimate survival tree that grows on almost every street in the US. I call it that because you can use the sap as medicine,